Ubisoft in the last couple of years effectively has taken every single step that they could to delete themselves. Starting from Skull and Bones, Star Wars Outlaws, and Assassin's Creed Shadows, the cherry on top still hasn't dropped.
Ubisoft made a game with an average critic score of 87% and a 95% recommendation, and it turns out that barely mattered, and now Prince of Persia The Lost Crown's team has been disbanded. That's also where things get interesting. There are some leaks. Ubisoft's expectations were rather high, their go-to-market plan was weak, and the road to completion and what's next is not necessarily simple because they are a company under a lot of external pressure. Here's how it all went down.
Well, yeah, you expect a company that does everything wrong to be under a lot of external pressure. There's a lot of finger pointing on who is to blame, probably. And the funny part is, everyone's probably to blame. From the CEO, most likely, honestly, to the janitor. Everyone is most likely 100% to be blamed.
Over the last few weeks, Ubisoft's public profile has been a raging inferno. It's been on fire, and French outlet Origami just poured some more oil onto it. They published a report alleging that Prince of Persia The Lost Crown's team has been disbanded.
It's a French outlet, and it's called Origami because the French are really good at folding.
With the decision being made just months after the game's launch. The overall claim is simple: poor sales across all platforms. Other projects could of course benefit from those staff, so the opportunity cost of doing another expansion for The Lost Crown beyond the one they've committed to would be too high, and then sequel plans died over concerns that the sequel would cannibalize the long-term sales.
Now this, once again I have to say, sounds just like someone in finances is thinking, yeah, I better just bulk up my CV, because remember, all of these companies doing these crazy things, they're effectively good only for the people. Well, they're good for other people, but they're good, but they're really easy and good for people in finance to take advantage, because you can have crazy ideologues as a CEO. You can have crazy ideologues as the people who are making the game. You can have all the woke bonanzas that you want, but there is one thing that pretty much never goes woke and broke, and that is finance. Because you cannot get into finance if you're a fucking idiot. Yeah, it's almost like being a doctor, but nowadays, if you have followed up what's happening in America, I'm not saying I would avoid a certain group of doctors, but I would, because, yeah, they got pushed through and now it's really bad. In any case, you know, this is what is happening most likely. People at finance don't want to get fired, because being good at finance, again, is 10% understanding numbers, 90% the ability to convince people that they are right about something. That's the beauty of finance. It's literally not about finance in a lot of cases, okay? And these people at finance probably know these choices are horrible, but they do get extremely fast results that can be put on CVs. And if anyone in a higher position knows this, and if you're aiming for a higher position, you also need to know this. You cannot just constantly tell your bosses, you're wrong, this is the right choice. No. It's better to be on the side of your boss and kind of, slowly drip feed them the right solution and not take any credit for it than it is to just point out, this is wrong, you're stupid, here's the right solution. Because the latter gets you fired at some point, okay? Without any credit, without anything. So, people at finance most likely are like, yeah, this seems like a good decision for my CV. Let's do it, because they most likely understand that there is no long-term success here, because the projects that they are gonna put people in are most likely duds and won't make money because of, well, probably woke garbage in them and things like that. And the people at finance know this. The people at finance see this. Hey, everyone plays a game at the end of the day, and that's called the game of making more money at the cost of pretty much everything. And in this case, it's already a crumbling piece of shit, so honestly, they're doing the right choice. They're doing the right choice.
sales of The Lost Crown. And funnily enough, they may have Nintendo to thank for that one. So basically, you can release a fantastic single-player game in a known piece of intellectual property with no live service bullshit and find no success. This game being the first Prince of Persia in a decade and being released on the 35th anniversary, well, turns out that doesn't really mean anything. It's good for a...
The people at finance most likely were looking at this and saying, this is a pretty good long-term investment, and by long-term investment, I mean literally 2 to 3 years, which is not that even long, honestly. But they knew that, yeah, the higher-ups are obviously not going to accept this, so let's just axe it and put it up. Oh my god, it is just the beauty of blindness.
Press release, but obviously it didn't have any meaningful cut through with audiences. The good news is that today we actually know more. Insider Gaming's very talkative Ubisoft sources have, of course, had something to say on this, and it's something that we can get into with the help of today's sponsor. We're going to teach you back-end development with... So, computers are awesome, and with these skills, you can do cool things on computers, you can up your job prospects. The first thing today is expectations. Ubisoft allegedly expected this game to sell millions of units. Yes, millions. And it may seem a bit insane, but you can actually see the logic here. Ubisoft Montpellier are one of their top teams. They have made absolutely awesome games. A great example of that is, of course, their Rayman work, which sold really well. Also, Metroidvanias are fairly popular these days. You see loads of them on Steam. There's the obvious example of Hollow Knight, which did extremely well and kind of got people back into the genre, but there is a drip feed of games, and there's larger hits. You've got Bloodstained, Blasphemous. Both of those are north of 2 million units by now, and over in Nintendo land, there's Metroid Dread. That shifted 3 million units in just over a year, and only on the Switch. So for Ubisoft, you can see why multi-platform, big IP, they expected more. What they got, though, was 300,000 sales by the end of January. That's an estimated $15 million of revenue, which they won't be thrilled about, especially because you've got to slash off some lovely store fees, payment processing, taxes, and all of that. And by now...
How much did it cost, though?
Including the Steam launch.
Wait, I thought Prince of Persia was actually like successful in that sense. That didn't actually cost that much.
The game has just passed 1 million sales, and yes, it is the case that it hit Steam late, only in August this year. But 2.5 months on, it only has 1,300 reviews in Steam, which is honestly not a lot of reviews for a game of this size, and it does indicate.
Yeah, but that's Ubisoft just being autistic as always, because everyone crawls back to Steam at some point. Gabe just has to do nothing, lay out his stomach in front, and people are gonna one by one, sooner or later, bow down to him and kiss the cracks between his stomach, okay? That's all that Gabe has to do. These people, they're so arrogant at thinking that they can make it without Steam at this point. It's crazy.
Kind of soft sales on the Steam platform. So the question then is why? This is a well-known IP, it's in a genre that is proven to sell well, and it's Prince of Persia. You might remember Sands of Time, yes, but Prince of Persia originally is a 2D side-scroller. So what gives? First, there's a trend that's often not talked about, and that's just that 2024 is remarkably shit for the games industry. We've got jokes in the office that basically Helldivers 2 and EA College Football have just kind of propped up the whole industry stats, which is sort of a joke, but it's...
I think it's true, like, Call of Duty completely dropped the ball.
It's also sort of...
with its shitty story and everything.
Not when you take a look at the numbers. Second, Ubisoft's name. I don't think I need to say anything else there. Third, Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia is a great, well-known IP, but it is a fumbled one. Take Forgotten Sands. That was generally good, but it was 14 years ago, and it came just 2 years after a Prince of Persia game that was...
Yeah, I think everyone knows that if Prince of Persia just actually had a little bit of investment, it could become a pretty big IP in the modern day. You know, and just probably the span of, you know, like 5 years, which isn't that much in the gaming space, right? Well, it is a lot, but you get the point. It could become a big IP, but, I mean, we're talking about Ubisoft. The women leading the company are probably, you know, not actually thinking about making profits. They're thinking more about virtue signaling and messaging, so that kind of explains that.
A failed reboot attempt. And since then, oh boy, since then it's not been great. Here's Prince of Persia Escape. on the mobile. Yes, it's a Prince of
Nice.
Persia runner game. There's also the thrilling Prince of Persia Escape 2, and they also did a remake of Prince of Persia 2 on mobile that actually looks like it could be decent, but doesn't matter, it's on mobile. You've then got the Sands of Time remake. The trailer for that initially was so bad that they changed the team in the game and they indefinitely delayed the project. So, what this is a deeply fumbled franchise. Lost Crown was a 2.5D Metroidvania, not a big 3D action.
It's not fumbled, it's completely fucked up. And also, for not a lot of the. There was a time in Prince of Persia was a big game and people bought it and it sold well, I'm pretty sure, right? But then they just decided to kill it for no reason, which is really, really strange. Either something happened and the game came out and didn't sell at all, and I'm not aware of it, or they just decided, hey, no, this no.
Game, which is what most people sadly do associate Prince of Persia with because of those games from the 2000s. And then there's the point of cannibalization, and that's where they learned a bit of a lesson from Nintendo. And that's actually something I mean quite directly. You've got Mario plus Rabbids Spark of Hope. They've worked with Nintendo before. The thing is, Spark of Hope actually sold softly, and at the time, they revealed that Nintendo advised them that they probably shouldn't have released two entries in that series within the same console cycle. Now, of course, whenever we think about a third-party publisher, especially Ubisoft, we think of yearly Assassin's Creed games back in the day. They need to get product out. But you take a look at Nintendo and it's obviously different. Nintendo spaces their releases out such that their players are ravenously hungry. You know what Nintendo fans can be like. And for some numbers here, the original Mario plus Rabbids sold incredibly well over time. It amassed 10 million sales over 6 to 7 years.
Oh.
But the follow-up didn't do that well. So with sales like that for the original, why would you pour time into a sequel that's likely to sell worse and then cannibalize the sales that you are already getting? That is at least Nintendo's logic, but it is one thing that's backed up by some of Nintendo's business strategy. They do not discount. They very much stand by the value of their games, and they do not do deep sales in the way that Ubisoft does. I think we all remember the likes of Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora being ludicrously discounted within only a few months. But anyway, let's return to Insider Gaming.
Oh, I still can't forget how bad Frontiers of Pandora is, dude. But the amount of people who are so brain-rotted and damaged that they want to be a blue noble savage, excuse me, is kind of peak.
Sources to see how Ubisoft runs things. Okay, from Prince of Persia Lost Crown to Ghost Recon, for you and me that may seem like a complete...
Honestly, I hate thinking about Ubisoft as a company, because again, they do a decision, and that decision doesn't make any sense. Then they do something else that kind of makes sense, but turns out later it doesn't. It's like, Ubisoft as a company seemingly just can't make a single fucking decision right. Okay? They have no investment in long-term future goals. They have no investment in short-term goals. So what the hell do they even invest in? What is... I don't understand. Ubisoft is just completely fucked. That's all I can honestly say. Nothing they do makes any fiscal sense.
Completely insane way for some of these staff to go. It's actually not that insane because Ubisoft Montpellier have worked on loads of different projects. So the deal is this. Lost Crown was greenlit in and around 2020. That was around the time where Ubisoft had slashed their release slate to pieces after Ghost Recon Breakpoint flopped. Yes, that was 4 years ago now. I hope you feel as old as I do. Now, developers told Insider Gaming that Lost Crown was a perfect project. They said it was straightforward and that was a luxury that other Ubisoft teams do not have, which...
Okay, let's actually Google how much did it cost. Prince of Persia. Okay, Lost Crown. Dev costs. Let's see if we can find it. How much did it cost? Lost Crown has... It needs to sell 6 million at Senti to recover estimate 200 million development costs. What the I assume that this is like a worst case scenario 50 mil thing. That it's just a small 200 million? Brev! Concord cost for... Dude, this is a more monumental disaster than Concord costing 400 million. What? Huh? It's a fucking 2D game, assholes. What have you done? How does this make sense? 200 million? Oh, holy shit. Okay, I take it back.
Of course.
I take it back. Yeah, well, maybe they couldn't salvage this crap, okay? Oh, but 200 million for a 2 goddamn D scroller. Are you insane? Well, it's not even a scroller, it's just a 2D plot. Oh, yeah. That is insane. That is beyond insane. And you're not gonna sell it on Steam? Yeah, you're just taking stupid and multiplying it stupid, and then you're multiplying with the power of stupid at this point. Oh my! I did not expect. That is a bombshell.
Of course, looking at
That's the equivalent of Concord costing 1 billion. Honestly, that is the equivalent of Concord costing 1 billion.
Ubisoft is hardly a surprise. As an example, just this month we have seen waves of strikes. Pretty rough. Now, the Lost Crowns team will find themselves split in a few different places. Most are going to stay at the Montpellier studio, and they're going to be working on Beyond Good and Evil 2. That is the famous Ubisoft quadruple A project first announced in 2008, but I don't think that really counts because it was then re-announced in its current form in 2017. Now, that's the studio's main project, and it's been a mess. So, Michel Ancel, who's the creator of Rayman and Beyond Good and Evil, was ousted over toxic leadership allegations. Sources then blame his replacement for...
Oh, I was gonna say a woman, but no, that's just a French name. Yeah, you can't distinguish between men and women with French names.
The delays, and that replacement has now been replaced by another guy who's a 30-year vet who they're framing as a bit of a steady hand. But that's actually not all the trouble the project has had. The other one is a lot more tragic, basically the untimely death of the game's creative director, Emile Morel, in 2023, which obviously impacted the team pretty damn deeply, and they're now trying to follow their late creative director's direction under their new creative director, who is also Ubisoft's VP of Global Creative. Now, on that project, two sources told Kotaku that the game passed an internal milestone.
Well, at least someone's getting paid well.
With positive feedback, which I suppose is a good thing, but then again, thinking about the timeliness of that, maybe Ubisoft have realized that their quality bar has got to, go up a little bit. So that project's where most of the staff are, but certainly not all of them. There is a Rayman remake that is being explored with Michel Ancel Consulting, which is something that insider gaming sources say people in the development team are not really best pleased about. Now, this is being led by Ubisoft Milan, who are the Mario and Rabbids people, and they're going to need the help. The reason why is their senior leadership, like most of them, left to form an indie studio. So yeah, that's kind of rough. Now, other people are on Ghost Recon, which Montpellier have worked on before. And what's interesting to me across all of this, and even Ubisoft projects...
Does anyone care about Ghost Recon, honestly?
...projects in the past is... there are no mass layoffs here, right? Normally, whenever stuff like this happens, you see teams being gutted. Take a look at Blizzard. Whenever the survival game died and Overwatch 2 PvE was cancelled, those teams were goddamn obliterated.
Well, yeah. It hasn't been announced, but the people who were taken off Prince of Persia, not all of them are gonna get to keep their job, probably.
Even though, what's the next project that some of those people are going to be going on to? It's a big StarCraft shooter, which makes you think, well, gee, you probably could have used that talent that you fired. So at the very least, it seems with Ubisoft, they do want to retain talent. I mean, also, they're Ubisoft. They probably know it's hard to get people back once they've lost them. So to put all this in context and to understand the sorts of decisions they're making at the top, we gotta put that in the context of the rather unique pressures that Ubisoft find themselves under right now. It's hard to speedrun the entire Ubisoft situation, but here's at least a good attempt at it. So, Ubisoft at one point had to fend off a hostile acquisition attempt by Vivendi. Now, to fend that off, the Guillemets, who are basically the family that...
We know all about this. Even though I just care about how it's gonna end. You know, it's the Tencent Guillemets brothers taking, Faustian deal effectively that they fucking thought is not somehow, which is hilarious, honestly, because they should have known. But I guess they thought that they can make it out somehow because they're good enough. The fact that they were forced into a deal like this in the first place, complete just bad luck, not actually bad decision making or anything. 10 out of 10. Oh, but yeah, 200 million for a 2D side scroll. I literally can't. Okay, that is the biggest shock of the day. Okay, what's next? Dragon Age Railguard suddenly becoming a good game? Anyway, that was Bellier. 10 out of 10. Bye.